This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone. Today is December 16th. This will be our last office meeting of 2020. I'm looking forward to 2021. It's been amazing to think of how busy real estate has been in Central Oregon and across the country. Who would have thought that when COVID hit that we would have had such a boom in real estate? It's hard to understand it, but if you think about the basic parts of what people were looking for due to COVID, looking for a home that had some has some amenities that maybe they weren't having in their current residence, looking for making a change as far as where they were living, looking to get an opportunity to have a home themselves. When you think about interest rates, how that has impacted what people can and cannot do. So anyway, going forward here, I'm going to start right now with the national trends. And we've used this chart before. This is the Housing Market Recovery Index. And so it looks into things such as demand, supply, price, and time on market. So this is the demand, is kind of like the recovery thing. So if you go with a basis point of the beginning of February at 100%, you can see how the start of 2020 was enormous, how we were booming, and then all of a sudden COVID hit and everything crashed and went way down into May. And then things started changing. And in the middle of summer, things crossed that 100-point line and it's been going up. We had a slowdown the end of October, but look, we're at 112.8% of where we started at the beginning of February. So we have fully recovered and then some in housing. It's been a really interesting thing to track. So one of the things they say is that buyers and sellers quickly jumped back into the market this week after taking a break during the election week. We did have a little bit of a slowdown around the election, but things have checked on, and according to Realtor.com's weekly housing report for the week ending November 14th, things picked back up again, and we're seeing that within our own market as well. Things recovered after the election. There was a slowdown, and now things are back into what they were before that. Something else to think about, and I've had a number of questions about this. What about people who are really suffering with job losses during this pandemic? The amount of mortgages and active forbearance. Forbearance, of course, is people who have not made payments, and they're looking at potentially making some changes to their loans and their mortgages. So if you look at it, when COVID first hit in the end of May, there was a number of people who stopped making payments. Unfortunately, homeowners, just like everyone else, was impacted by the pandemic, and those who lost their jobs, it gets down to, can we afford to make a mortgage payment? But that number has been steadily going down and down and down. Now, there's been a little bit of an uptick the end of November on people who are back into forbearance. I don't know if that might be due to the stay-at-home orders or the shutdown orders, again impacting people whether or not they can make their mortgage payment or not. But the numbers are down significantly. And if you look at this a little bit better, here is actually what's happening to people. So for people who entered into a forbearance plan, fully 54.6 have paid up in full. So of those millions of people here, so we have 30.6 who kind of were being proactive about it, thinking, oh, I probably won't be able to make my mortgage payment, so let's go into forbearance and see how we can work it out. But 30.6% kept making their payments. 7.1 have paid off their loan in full. Those are people who sold their homes during that time, and even if they had stopped making payments, there was sufficient equity in the property to pay off the missed payments and then some. And now 16.9% of past due payments were brought current. So that's really good. So these are people who entered into forbearance, 54.6 paid in full. Now, some 30.7 have a plan in place. They're going to work out the repayment plan. Some of them are in loan deferral. The lenders have agreed to let their loans be paid off later. And 6.8% are in some sort of a modification. Loan mod, maybe reduced payments, something that they've worked out with their lender. There's still, however, 14.7 still in trouble. So of those people who are in trouble, you know, it's significant for them, definitely. But this is relatively really good about people who have been dealing with not being able to make payments. So these are steps. This is helpful information. If you know a friend or a client, someone who has not been able to make mortgage payments due to COVID issues, there are 5 steps here. So what you do is you first of all contact the information for your servicer. Then you call your servicer, explain the situation, use the number in your statement to avoid scams. There are scammers out there. We know people who look for any opportunity to take advantage of others. So make sure that your client's aware that they need to be contacting their servicer. Nothing. If they get an email from somebody, that's not the case. They need to be the one who's proactive on this. And then under the CARES Act, your client should ask if they're eligible for protection. And again, the CARES Act provides homeowners with federally backed loans, that's FHA, VA, USDA, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac, some protection over there. And then ask the question, what happens when your forbearance period ends? The question asks, what happens to the payments I missed? What are my repayment options? When will repayment be due? And are there any fees connected with this? And then ask your services to provide the agreement in writing and check to make sure that matches with what you discuss. And again, forbearance is not automatic. It must be requested. So if you have a client who's dealing with this, I can tell you last summer we were dealing with a client who had stopped making payments on their loan, and they actually got into foreclosure. They were receiving some notices of default. At that point, because we're at a point where we had an offer on the property, or maybe it wasn't an offer yet, maybe it was just we had an active listing. What they ended up doing is they did contact their lender at that point, and the lender did put off the foreclosure because we did get this home sold, and when the property sold, all the back payments were paid off, the mortgage, all interest payments, all penalties, all that was paid off, and there was so much equity in this home that our seller walked away with a lot of money. So this is, again, this is helpful information that you could use when you're dealing with a client who may be suffering from COVID-related non-payment of their loan. So here's another question that people are worrying about. Are prices going up too fast? That's major concern for a lot of people. Sometimes I'm just amazed at the prices that we're seeing and that we're getting for our listings, and then they will hit the open market and they sell for even more than that. So there's concern though, are prices going up too fast? So here's someone from Dow Jones Indices. His name is Craig Lazara. He's the managing director. And his quote here is that housing prices were notably, and I am tempted to say very strong in September. The National Composite Index gained 7% relative to its level a year ago. Our three monthly readings since June of this year have all shown accelerating growth in home prices, and September's results are quite strong. Obviously, we know housing prices have been going up very, very fast. So if you look at the compound annual price appreciation rate, so this is a statistic that looks at how much were homes going up. Since 1991, they were going up an average of 3.8% across. This is a national statistic again. Since 1991, home prices appreciation about 3.8%. But since 2012, they've been going up 6.1%. That's since coming out of the recession. So if you take this historic figure of 3.8% and you look at it since 2000, here's the chart of what home prices, median home sales price across the country should be. Starting off a little less than 140,000, and finishing up over $280,000. So that's historic appreciation. But if you take that into consideration with what's actually happened, here's the actual. Here was the bump of the housing boom. And then here's the burst when the bubble burst. And this is the recession we were dealing with. Now, since 2012, home prices have been going up 6.1%. Now, if you take that into consideration and not take off this year, if you look at the historic rate at 3.8%, we're almost back to that. So we take this anomaly of the housing boom and bust and recovery. But now you take into consideration this year. This is what's actually happened to home prices. So a median home price in the country is now pushing 320,000. And historically it should be around 280. So this year has been an anomaly. Of course, we've had anomalies throughout, but again, the statistical rate, we were almost back to that. Very interesting. So why is that? This is it. Inventory and home prices, 2010 and today. So we look at inventory levels. Here was inventory levels. Here was the recession. Here's what's happened since we've been coming out of the recession. Inventory levels are down so much, which is what's been pushing prices up. It's basic economics, supply and demand, massive demand, very little inventory. So prices have gone up. I remember, I think Bill was with me when we went to the OAR conference in Sun River, where we had Lawrence Yone, who is the NAR chief economist. He was actually here in Central Oregon. And one of the things that really sticks into my head, this was quite a few years ago, he said that back then, he was looking at data, again, economists always do that. He was saying that if we had built the homes that should have been built during the recession, just to keep up with the driving demand of new people who need homes, we were down 3 million homes that should have been built, which weren't built during the recession because obviously no builder was building during that time. And so that has stuck in my head. That was kind of the start of our lack of inventory, because even though we were in a recession, our population across the country has still been growing, and people with growing populations need places to live. And so we had a lack of inventory starting in the recession. Just an interesting side note there. So again, Lawrence Young, our chief economist at NAR. Did you have a question there? No, okay. Such a frenzy of activity, reminiscent of 2006, raises questions about a bubble and the potential for a painful crash. The answer, there's no comparison. Back in 2006, dubious adjustable rate mortgages taxed many buyers' budgets. Some loans didn't even require income documentation, those no-doc loans. Today, buyers are taking out 30-year fixed-rate mortgages. 14 years ago, there were 3.8 million homes listed for sale, and home builders were putting up about 2 million new units. Now, inventory is only about 1.5 million homes, and home builders are unproducing relative to historical averages. And that's been our issue. We have so much demand for housing, in particular certain types of housing, and it's not being produced to meet that demand. But we're also looking at this. Americans' mortgage debt soars to a record $10 trillion. The reason for that, mortgage balances, the highest component of household debt, rose by $85 billion in the third quarter and sat at $9.86 trillion on September 30th. Mortgage originations, which include refinances, were at $1.05 trillion, the second highest volume in the history of the series and second only to the historical refinance boom in third quarter of 2003. That's from the Federal Reserve Bank. What's happening? People are buying homes, but mortgage rates are so low. So this is a chart that's showing household debt service ratio for mortgages as a percentage of disposable personal income. So this is a chart that mortgage people look at. Can you afford this home based upon how much disposable personal income do you have? Do you have sufficient funds in to cover not only your mortgage payment, but all your household expenses, all these sort of things? And if you look at in 1980, this ratio, this chart was showing a figure of 4.38%. Then of course the housing bubble when everyone was underwater. But today it's at 3.72%. We're at our lowest rate ever. So even though mortgage debt is going up, people are buying homes, and the reason why is because mortgage rates are so low. So what are we going to think about for 2021? Looking ahead, what can we predict? Above all, the 2021 outlook hinges on the course of the coronavirus. Both the recent virus surge and the election make government emergency relief more likely. We'll see if the House and Senate can agree on anything here. Next year will also start to show whether two of the big pandemic shifts will endure, from services to goods and from in-office to remote work. Even small shifts in these trends, if permanent, could cause big changes in how businesses hire, how job seekers search, and where people live and how much they earn, which is true. They talk about Bend as being a Zoom town, and that is true. People have moved here when you have to do stay at home and you have good internet. Home could be anywhere in the country. It could be anywhere in the world if you have good internet connection. So people, we have discovered during this pandemic, decided, hey, I don't want to live in the city anymore. I want to move to a place where I can, even if I have to live at home, I can enjoy the outdoors. I don't have to be cooped up there if I have, which is all trigger the type of homes people are looking for. They're looking for an office in the home, looking for a home with a backyard. They're looking for a place where they have extra work areas if you have children, so that children can work at home, all these sort of things. So if any of these trends continue on, and I've shared this with you guys before, I know that G5 here, that has 300 employees, 300 employees used to be coming here regularly to this building here in the Franklin Crossing building. And now I know statistically speaking, they've talked with these people and they told me that 2/3 of them are very happy working from home. They would just assume keep on doing that. And from G5's perspective, well, if they're working from home, if we're still getting the same amount of production out of them, why are we paying for all this office space, which we don't need? So again, small shifts, if they permanent, can cause big changes in how businesses hire, how people live, and how much they can earn. So that's really true. Again, mortgage rates. This is a prediction from Freddie Mac. What's going to happen to the 30-year fixed rate? So if we're looking at 30-year fixed rates, hadn't gone up and they've gone down. Look at where they are now. Was it around 2.7? They are predicted in 2021 to stay flat. This is Freddie Mac's prediction for the 30-year fixed rate. So to stay historically low, they're saying between 2.7 and 3. So this chart is showing keeping them at 3. If that's the case, that means people can, with a 3% interest rate, people can afford more homes, which is why even though our home price has gone up, people can still afford homes because their monthly bill is affordable. So here's also the Danielle Hale. She's the chief economist at Realtor.com. And she's saying we expect home sales in 2021 to come in at 7% above 2020 levels, following a more normal seasonal trend and building momentum through the spring and sustaining the pace in the second half of the year. While home sales are expected to lose some momentum over the last months of 2020, the shallower than normal seasonal slowdown creates a higher base of activity leading into 2021 that is roughly maintained for the first half of the year. As vaccines for the coronavirus become broadly available to the public and economic growth reflects the resumption of more normal patterns of consumer spending, home sales gain even more in the second half of the year. So this is the chief economist at Realtor.com, their prediction. So home sales in 2021 to come in 7% above 2020 levels. So that's 7% more homes expected in 2021 than in 2020. I think a lot of that's going to be depending upon whether or not we have inventory to cover that. Home price forecasts. So here's two different ones. The 12-month forecast showing home prices not going up as steeply as before. These are different major people who for different institutions that predict home price forecasts. Looking roughly between these ones about maybe 3%. The 2021 forecast, Realtor.com is still pretty bullish on home prices, thinking it's going to be 5.7% increase. NAR is a little bit better at 4.5. Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, MBA in the 2s. So we'll see. Again, this is national stats. Bend is an anomaly, as we've determined this year. I know that we are anomaly during the boom and we were anomaly during the bust. We went up high and we busted really low, and now we are way over where these national stats show. Here's one question again about foreclosures. If something like this happens, any foreclosure increases will likely be quickly absorbed by the market. It will not lead to any price declines, that's for sure. There's so much demand. So if you have a client who is in forbearance or can't work it out or needs to sell their home, or if they're somehow not even working through forbearance and they're in foreclosure, obviously anything that we have, any client who needs to sell their home could get it sold very, very quickly, and it would most likely cover the cost of their debt and then some. So we're not gonna have a bubble burst like we did before. It's just not there. Lending practices are also such that people who get 30-year loans nowadays had to prove that they can afford it. Things are still really tight with that. There's no such thing as no-doc loans any longer. People have to prove that they can afford to repay their loan. This winter may be one of the best winters for sales activity. On a winter-to-winter comparison, this could be one of the best breakout years, just based on the fact that pending contracts are at such a higher level. And we'll go over that on our local levels, local stats in just a second. Again, this is coming from Lawrence Young. So it's true. As we all know, if we can get a listing, we can sell that listing as long as it's not overpriced, or there's not something really, really wrong with that listing, or it's a real challenging property, maybe not, it's not financeable. But properties that are listed typically are getting multiple offers and we are selling them. That's why inventory is such a key component right now. So this is also something that's really helpful to think about. Virtual events. Virtual events exploded in popularity due to the pandemic, but they're proving to be a high value opportunity regardless. Not only can they be just as engaging and as exciting as in-person events, they allow you to bring together a wider audience. This is an idea that is something that you could do. If we can't have, for instance, I know some of you guys like to have like a party for your clients. If you can't do that, you could have a get-together through GoToMeeting again, or through Zoom. The initial use of these tools are free. You just have to get your clients to meet. You can have a get-together with them and talk about what's going on in the market. You can share some of this data, some of this information, which is really interesting. And if they've been wondering about maybe selling their home, you can show them the statistics of what's actually happening out there. So virtual events, you can reach people. Maybe they couldn't come to your house Christmas party, but if they're living in Florida, they could come to your virtual event. This is just an idea, another way of trying to touch people, which also is geared into our thoughts about this client retention program. And I know we put this together for probably about 15 of you so far. We're happy to do it for anybody who wants a way of touching your clients on a regular basis. It's such an important component of real estate because your future business comes from your past clients. So let me get out of that. And now I'm going to go to the other one, which is the local stuff. Oh, right here. So here we are. This is what's happened for November of 2020 versus November of 2019. So this is where Ben Premier is as a company. So in 2019, during that month, we had 9 new listings. During 2020, we've had 14 listings. So we're up 56% on our listing. Volume level at roughly 5 million, 2020 at 7 million. Pending sales. We had 37 in 2019. We had 44 in 2020, up 19%. But the big thing here is look at the volume here. We were at 15 million in 2019. We're at 25, almost 26 million in 2020. So yes, we're up 19%, but we're up significantly more in the value of our homes. A lot of that has to do with the type of property we're representing, also the massive increase in home prices too. We closed 40 in 2019, 42 in 2020, but again, an increase in the price of these by over $5 million. So that's significant. We're closing things of higher value. Year to date, we had 426 closings through November of 2019 at a value of 206 million. In 2020, we had 489 at a value of 262 million. Interesting statistic. We keep track, as you know, we're required by the real estate agency to have a record of every deal written. And so we log all of those in. We've had well over 1,000 deals written this year from our brokers. And we've never had that many ever. So you guys are really, I wish all of those had resulted in a sale. A lot of them are multiple offers, either given or received, but still, that is a lot of work that everyone has been doing, significant amount of work. So here's the charts again from Flex, which shows residential. This has been single family residential, or been residential, excuse me. Number of listings, again, the chart going down. New listings, the chart down. Sold listings, the chart's down a little bit here because again, seasonal change, as historically we do go down in November. But look at listing prices, active listing price going up. Sold price is a little flat, and new median list price is kind of flat. Absorption rate, we're down to roughly, on this is all the stats here, about 1 month supply. Sold to list ratio, a little bit of a down here. So we historically will see in the later part of the fall, early winter, homes that did not sell may start seeing some price adjustments for people who do need to sell. And so sometimes we start to see a little bit of that. Days on market, again, we have hardly any days on market. And then price volume. This is the chart that I always use all the time for my blogs. This is comparing November 2020 versus 2019 for Bend single family residential on less than an acre. So that's a key component here. This is not acreage property. So if you look at how many homes did we have, active homes in 2019, 747. You had inventory you could pick from. It was roughly 4 months supply. 2020, we had 149. We're down 80% as far as active listings. New listings, 134 new listings in 2019. 2020, we had 126. So fewer new listings during that month, down 6%. New pendings, however, again, this is where the chart really is way over what we're seeing nationally. 171 new pendings in 2019, 336 in 2020, up 96.5%. Solds, 170 in 2019, and 2020, 209, up 22.9%. Volume here, sold volume in 2019 of 88 million, in 2020, 133 million. Price increases have really made a difference as far as the value of our sold volume, up 51%. Median sales price, average sales price went from 519 to 640, up 23%. Median sales price from 433 to 537, up 24%. Percentage of list price. 2019, we still were selling at pretty much asking price, 99%. Here, 100.8%. This is properties selling for over asking price, which we all know is what's happening with the multiple offers situation, pushing prices up. Months of supply, again, 2019, we had roughly 4 months of supply. Here we have just a little over 2 weeks. So last month we had around 2 weeks. We have a little bit more, a tiny bit more, but 2 weeks supply is a insane amount of inventory to be dealing with when you have this much demand. It's why everything that hits the market gets sold. Gets sold before. It gets sold when it's in coming soon status. It gets sold so quick. Again, that is the issue that we are dealing with. It's inventory. Can we? And this is the thing people are still looking for. Ben, single family residential. They're looking at townhomes and condos too. We have sold more Inn of the Seventh Mountain condos this summer than we've ever sold before, either representing a buyer or our listings. People are looking for places to live that they can own. And here is our data regarding comparing us against other Central Oregon brokerages. And you can see we're still firmly fixed in number 5 position. We have hold here, when you consider our sides, we have 520 sides. That means either on one side of the transaction or another, or maybe on both sides. And the value here is roughly $275 million. So this is a lot of hard work from you guys. You've worked really, really, really hard to do this, and it's reflective in what's happening within our brokerage. I really wish that we could be doing floor again. Every day I'm looking to see if there's any change to the requirements. I can tell you that since Back Porch Coffee opened on a couple days ago, we're seeing more foot traffic in front of our office. I just wish we could have a floor agent there to be able to talk to these people. We are getting some more calls again. I know when the new shutdown orders hit and when they had to shut down the restaurants downtown, it definitely impacted people who were on the streets downtown. So I'm hoping not only for us, but more so for those people who are trying to make it go. Restaurant owners, it's really challenging right now for them. Small businesses, really challenging for them. So especially during the holiday season, coming from a retail background, if you guys don't know, when my husband and I first moved to Bend, for the first 9 years, we ran retail. We had, by the time we sold everything after 9 years, we had 2 restaurants and a retail business. And you make your money at Christmas. You really do. It's the rest of the years, you're just trying to pay your bills. But any profit, the massive amount of profit comes at Christmas. And if these people can't have that volume of sales that they need during that time, I don't know how they're going to survive. So it's important as much as possible for us to support small businesses locally if we can do that at all. And that's the end of what I have for today, but I did want to open it up and remind everybody we still have gifts here in the office. Since we couldn't do a Christmas party, I just wanted to let everybody know how much we appreciate all your efforts, and we appreciate each one of you, and that's why we have a gift here in the office. I know a bunch of you picked them up, but if you haven't yet had a chance to come in and do that, they're here in my office, so please come in sometime while we're here and pick it up. Also, if you haven't finished that survey yet that Brittany's putting together, that would be very helpful. We want to get as many responses as possible. It's going to help us plan for next year what we're doing and make sure we're doing what you guys need us to do. I'm also going to be sending out a survey later about whether or not some of the tools that we're using are actually being used. For instance, Imprev. I don't know how many people are actually using that on a regular basis. So if not, I'm kind of rethinking some of the contracts we have and whether or not I should continue on with that. We'll have that in another survey after we're done with the first. And with that in mind, I'd like to open this up for any questions. Does anyone have any questions, haves or wants? Anything that they want to share? If so, just unmute your mic and share with the group.
I'd love to have more listings out there that I can show my buyers.
Yeah, that's the key. That is such a key right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
That's
We're
all
dealing
I
with, yes? Yeah, more listings is a key.
Yes. I mean, that's all I want in my stocking this year, please.
Listings. Anyone else have something?
Hey guys, can you hear me? This is Rob.
Yeah. Hi,
Hey.
Rob.
Hey, just want to let you know I've actually got to run on second sign off for a listing appointment. It's a manufactured home, should be a nice one up in Whispering Pines, but you know, 450-ish, something like that. But heading up there shortly. But also just want to let you know on yesterday's floor call, I did get a good one yesterday for a guy just retired from the military, about 650, 700 price point. We got a great rapport going with them, and so those phone calls coming in on virtual floor can definitely work. You never know.
Great. Thanks, Rob, for sharing that. I love to get your listing going as soon as possible, too. That sounds great.
Yeah, me too. I'm heading up there in about 30 minutes here, so got to go get ready to head out. But I'll keep you guys posted on that if that all goes forward. And otherwise, hope everybody has a great day.
Awesome. Anyone else have haves or wants? If we don't have any or haves or wants, or anyone else to share anything, I'd like to say if I don't get a chance before that, I hope you have a wonderful holiday. I know we're probably in, is it the 7th day of Hanukkah? I don't know if we have any Hanukkah observers, but we also have Christmas coming up, and for people who celebrate Christmas, I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday too. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.